He really got stabbed there. Hi guys, my name is Joe and welcome to Fighting Words, the martial arts library. This is a section I call Media Fight Monday, so on the first and third Monday of every month I pick a fight scene from movies, television, animation, and so on, and I break it down and then I give it a grade based on realism and storytelling value. This fight scene is from the movie The Punisher, which came out in 2004. We have Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, played by Thomas Jane, and he's facing off against the Russian, played by Kevin Nash. Now, Mr. Jane did a lot of his own stunts for this, but I wasn't able to find any particular fighting or martial arts background. For this movie, he did spend a lot of time training in like paramilitary stuff, so maybe that was part of it. Kevin Nash, some of you may know him as Diesel. He was a professional wrestler for many years. The stunt coordinator for this movie was Gary Himes, who has been stunt coordinator in television and movies, everything from TJ Hooker to Terminator Genisys to Logan. As far as the setup to this scene, I don't think it requires a whole lot of explanation. The Punisher fights criminals, and the criminals sent somebody to come fight him. I will say there's a lot of this that I've had to cut out. The fight scene as a whole goes back and forth between the fight between the Punisher and the Russian and other folks in their apartment building. So, Frank Castle gets a knock on his door. Instead of looking through the peephole, as you would assume someone with his activities might, he just decides to go open the door. And eats several punches, throws a few back, and we can already see the difference between, it was a double axe handle, the size of Kevin Nash and the size of Thomas Jane. Apparently, Nash is roughly a foot taller and about 80 pounds heavier than Jane. Good use of the environment, but the Russian is tough. Now, check out this sequence. Grabs a balisong, aka butterfly knife. He really got stabbed there. This is actually a pretty infamous moment in the fight. They did not swap out the real knife for one that was gimmicked that would have a retractable point to it. So Thomas Jane just straight up stabbed Kevin Nash in his chest. And to Mr. Nash's credit, he's not selling it, although he got really good at not selling stuff in his pro wrestling career. Now, it is somewhat believable that given the size disparity that he could just post him up against the wall. Humans don't hang very well from their necks, so I would expect a bit more of a fight before it got to that point. He's trying to turn the knife on him, not a bad idea. And it worked. Got an off-screen kick. He's got his fingers in his face, which isn't bad, but also there's a huge size disparity. He just clobbers him with a box. And that sort of works. So we saw him slamming his hand against that locker until he dropped the blade. Again, good idea to disarm your opponent whenever possible. Similarly, Punisher reaches for tools, and they get swiped off the table. Again, good use of the environment. You hit him with some sort of metal bar to almost zero effect. And I'm wondering why when he had that, when he initially stunned him, why he didn't continue with the beating. And of course we know it's because the fight scene needs to happen. But realistically, you don't stop hitting a guy until you need to stop hitting a guy. And the Punisher should know that. I don't know why he's crawling when he could walk. He's got a grenade. Okay, that's about the best you can make of a bad situation. I don't have any personal experience with grenades. I think anything, though, that would be powerful enough to blow the door off its hinges would probably have a deleterious effect on the human body. Probably, I would guess, at the very least, the inner ear. You're sometimes taught, if you are concerned about an explosion, to cover your ears and open your mouth so that it helps to equalize the pressure so that you won't actually have your ears blown out. Alright, so the Russian had that bar in his hand as he was walking in there, and then once he get there, he didn't have it. This is sort of an editing goof, but also, again, if you have a weapon, why not utilize it? Why choose to throw it away if your objective is to just like end this guy? We're not talking about, some honor-based fight. We're talking about the objective is to end the other guy. So I don't know why he dropped the weapon that he had. I do like that he continues to use the environment. Knocks him through a wall. Now, we saw him with that big toilet in his hand knocking the Punisher through the wall, but then he just leaves it behind when he needs to attack him, so that the movie can happen, right? But again, if you have this very effective weapon, why would you leave it behind? You just see him being dragged across his kitchen and his neighbors not really paying attention to what's going on. I really think, given the age and weight of that door, it should probably have done more damage than it did. That looks like an older refrigerator. I don't think you could have taken too many times being slammed in that and still maintain consciousness. Hooray, I got my gun. Now it won't fire. Ooh. Okay. So, the wall to the left was breakaway, the wall to the right was not. And Thomas Jane actually hit it pretty hard. Gary Himes, who was also acting as the second unit director, was hoping that he didn't just break his movie star doing that scene. And here he's getting thrown through the door of his neighbor's place. Honestly, I don't think Kevin Nash has ever been as muscular as he is now. I also don't know why anyone isn't helping him. Now, the Punisher was getting his knees into his chest, which actually is a good idea to push off and create space. Even given the size difference between them, that should provide enough leverage. Kicks him off. Ooh! Scalds him with boiling water. And that's pretty much the fight right there. They go down the stairs. Frank is mostly all right. The Russian is not. I would recommend searching out this fight scene to see it in full with the neighbors doing their thing to opera. It does give the whole thing a bit of a slapstick feel, including some of the things that we saw, like, the grenade being swatted back like a baseball. But let's go ahead and give this thing a grade. As far as realism goes, I don't think there's a whole lot. Now, I was actually talking to some folks about this fight scene earlier today, and talking about how it's a good thing the fight scene called for Kevin Nash to be stabbed in the chest because it turned out that the blade was real and he had enough chest that he could sort of tank it. Given that Frank Castle's background here is meant to be a Marine veteran, he would have probably picked a different target in real life, possibly the neck, possibly lower toward the heart. And it's a good thing they didn't do that, or this fight scene might have a very different tone to it. I don't think it's that realistic for a hitman, first of all, to go in unarmed, but your mileage may vary. To also give up the weapons that he has. Again, we saw him with that metal bar. I feel like saying crowbar, but it's not really shaped like one. But he dropped that. And he dropped the toilet despite tossing Castle through a wall with it. And he had a weight that he used to smash the barrel of the gun. Like, somebody that size can use a significant amount of weight like a bludgeon, and he didn't bother doing that. I don't think any of that's realistic. I mean, they weren't really doing anything fantastic. They weren't like doing any wire fu or anything, but I'm still going to give it a D for realism. As far as storytelling goes, it had a lot more when you include the background of the neighbors, and the opera, but even taking just the action that we saw, I think we told a pretty good, albeit humorous story of big, overpowering guy fighting a small, tiny guy, and the little guy trying everything he can to get an edge and just not. Up until the point where we need to end this fight. So again, the story it told was more humorous. I'll take a little bit off because, again, of some inconsistencies as far as the narrative goes. I got a metal pipe, but you're not gonna see it in the next scene when I go pick him up. Things like that. Give it a solid B as far as storytelling. Anyway, that's all I have for this week. If you guys would like to help out the channel or to sponsor a video, please consider donating to my Ko-fi account. I'm going to put a link to that in the description of this video. Thank you for following along with me. I hope you enjoyed it. And leave a like if you liked it. And I'll see you guys later. Thank you.